The U.S. Supreme Court is taking up yet another Second Amendment case during the new session that began last week. Justin Gick reports on what the case is and what could happen.
The United States Supreme Court began hearing cases last week as its new session started. Although there are many major cases hitting the court, one that's catching attention in North Dakota is United States v. Rahimi, which is looking at the amendment to the Federal Firearms Act of 1994. That act prohibits people with domestic violence restraining orders from owning firearms. The question under review is whether that violates the Second Amendment.
The court's going to have to get to the issue of whether the Constitution forbids that, or does it permit it under certain circumstances. It's possible that they could alter the landscape by demanding a more individual determination, not simply per se prohibition based on that conviction.
The Abused Adult Resource Center is concerned that if this case passes, it could cause domestic violence to ramp up.
Increased lethality, we could see increased risk, additional need for assistance like emergency shelter, and additional calls for assistance from law enforcement because of the added level of fear.
The AARC says in North Dakota, domestic violence protection orders have been in place since the 1980s, prohibiting perpetrators from possessing firearms. Attorney General Wrigley says the case before the Supreme Court does raise the question of whether these people's constitutional rights are being violated.
How, if at all, can those constitutional protections, how can they be encroached by a legislature? Usually in these matters, there's a balance.
Although the AARC can't speak to why this issue keeps coming up, they can say that as it comes up, it creates greater risk for victims because it often emboldens offenders. And Rickman says it sends a message to victims that their safety and rights aren't as valued as their abusers. In Bismarck, I'm Justin Gick reporting for your news leader.
Justices will hear oral arguments on November 7th.